Today I was in the car for many hours, back and forth, in and out, doing a lot of things with a friend or two. So you're looking at me tired and kind of worn out, a little grumpy. Wore a hat all day and a coat. But I wanted to talk to you about something which I have to admit was brought upon me by two friends. On YouTube, I watch or follow several channels, and by coincidence, two of them this week did a little bit of reality check with their viewers. Now, Jerry is in his 70s, and he has a slow, plodding kind of style, a little like me. And that's why at first I didn't like it. I didn't like him, but I've listened again and again, and I've come to understand who he is and why I like him. The other is kind of the opposite. She's a young housewife, had a career, now has a child, and so she's a stay-at-home mom. But her style is kind of bubbly and effervescent, and she's all over the place with her facial expressions and her big eyes and her stuff. So I sometimes like, oh my God, Aaron, could you just calm down? But I like her too. In both cases, this past week, they both had a little honesty session with us viewers. And in the case of Aaron, especially, but not both, but Aaron especially, she talked about how she had been honest with herself and said, you know, I can't be this person anymore. I can't do this. I can't be with this guy. I can't be with this job. I don't like who I am, who I've become. I need massive changes. And Jerry had said, kind of talked about how he had made good money in his life and his jobs. Impressive, really. For him, it was a matter of having just been kind of, well, he said not fired, but let go. How did he put it? He was downsized and decided that's fine. I can move on. With the case of Erin, the young lady, she wanted to tell us that she was insanely happy at this point in her life. She'd met the right guy. She'd made some hard decisions. I won't tell you about those, but she made some hard decisions, and now is in the middle of a wonderful new adventure. Now, it's one thing for a 25-year-old to say that. It's another for a 75-year-old to say it. And I'm kind of closer to one than the other, but I'm there too. But first, I'd like to tell you something about myself, and I think I will do this in an effort to sort of archive my past. I would like it to be known that I'm not the person a lot of people think I am. They know me from work at First Data, many years, Info USA, and other. That's 20 years worth or more of people knowing me as an office worker, and I've not always been that person. Let me tell you, I was a teacher for 6 years. My own children don't know any of that story. There's a lot of story there. I was very much in over my head at first. We'd be hard pressed to find any teacher that doesn't find himself in that position of thinking, oh my God, what have I done? Can I do this? Can I be a teacher? Can I lead these rascals, these kids, these hoodlums, these noisy little guys? And that was precisely where I was. And I thought, no, I'm going to do this. I like what I'm teaching, and I think I have a reason to be here, and I'm among other people who are doing it, and I don't know, something just happened. I guess they welcomed me. I was kind of brought into the fold and accepted. I remember that first year there were 4 new teachers right out of college. And that's comforting to know that not everybody out there was, seasoned professionals. And so I jumped right in, and I had a fair couple of years at that school. I was there 4 years. And I will tell you one part of that. I taught 2 years of German, 2 years of Spanish, and I usually had at least 1, maybe 2 classes of junior high level English. Now, in that school, that meant 7, 8, or 9. In this case, it was ninth grade, but it wasn't just ninth graders, it was all boys. They literally split the boys and the girls for that period because that was PE, physical education. Remember that? And so, while the girls were at PE, the boys had English class, and that was me. And in that school, in fact, for both the schools I was at, English meant, for them, it meant grammar study only. No literature to speak of. It was just grammar and those kinds of things that sound kind of boring, but at the same time can be fun. I liked it. Well, I found myself really dreading this. I thought, oh my God, all boys. And the first little bit, I thought, this is going to drive me crazy. But I figured out how to deal with them and make it fun for them and me. And if you think about it, it took me a while to realize this, but every teacher is kind of an actor. You go in there and you play a part that isn't really you. You're just doing a job because you're fulfilling a need, and you think you can do it, but it requires a lot of acting skill because you don't take your personality in there. You don't go in there with this charming self or this grumpy old guy. You have to become something else. You have to do what appeals to them, and it would be different for that class than, say, the next one. I jumped around all year, every day. I was a new person every hour because that next class could tolerate this but not that, and I was kind of fun and chummy in one group and authoritarian and harsh and mean in another. So, but I tell you that because it was a lot of fun. I had a great deal of fun with those guys, those ninth grade boys. But the language classes were more fun. I remember in the next school I went to, even a better school. I liked it a great deal. But, it still gets tiresome. As a teacher, you go in there and you meet these guys who may be tired, or they're tired, grumpy themselves. They're not in the best mood. I mean, it's a long day for students. But I remember I drove to work every day in an old Cadillac. I had bought this Cadillac years before, and it was a beautiful old classic. And I drove it quite a bit. And that left the other newer car for my wife and kids. And but I had a student or two that would love to distract me by talking about this old car. And Mickey McConkey especially, I'll tell you about him. He's a good example of what it's like to be a teacher. He would say, "Hey, I see you washed the caddy. I have you done anything to the old caddy lately?" Well, and not every day, but just when it was test time. So the other kids, maybe one girl in particular, she'd say, "Oh, shut him up." She'd say, "Shut up already. He's just trying to distract you. He didn't study for the test, and he thinks maybe he'll chat you out of the test today and get you in a good mood, and you'll just say, skip the test today, but don't, because the rest of us studied." And so stuff like that. Well, we had a lot of fun, but we did work hard too, and I appreciated that very much. Those kids were good students. They were there for a reason. But I remember too, a teacher, you have so much pressure. You got to go to the events, the concerts, the Christmas pageant, the graduations. You do because you're part of it. But there's the endless ball games. Oh my God, I got so tired of basketball games and football. I don't like football anyway. And so we'd have to do this every Friday. And imagine you go home at Friday, you're done. Not a teacher. Your day doesn't end until after the game. And I remember lots of times, and I felt honored that my athletic students wanted me there. They'd say, "Oh, you got to come to the game tonight. Be there, please. You got to see we're gonna beat so and so," and I did. I pretended to be interested. And then Monday morning, oh my gosh, Monday morning, oh, Mickey couldn't wait to ask me, "Did you see that touchdown? Did you see me make that great touchdown? Wasn't that great?" And I'd say, "Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was really good." And he'd turn to me and say, "No, you didn't. You weren't even there." And I said, "How do you know I wasn't there?" "I looked for you. You weren't anywhere in the stands. I watched." I said, "Oh, come on, Mick. I went to the bathroom. I went for popcorn." "No, you weren't there." And that's when I realized it was important to him that I be there. Mickey was an exceptional student. He was the kind of kid everybody liked, and every teacher wished all their students were like him because he was a young man of integrity and very handsome, a lot of confidence, very smart, and athletic. So I learned to like going to all the ball games because I knew it mattered. Even if they didn't tell me, I liked the fact that they appreciated that I was there. In fact, Mickey, long after I left, no, he called me one day to have me come to their place and see his dad's car. His dad had gotten an old car, an old Ford, and he wanted me to see it. So he called me and said, "Can you come over and see Dad's car?" And so I did. And in fact, years later, I got a phone call, and it was him. I picked up the phone. "Hey, Craig, it's Mickey. It's Mick. Hey, Craig, it's Mick." And I had to stop and think, who's Craig? I knew the Mickey one, but I didn't know. Well, by that time he had realized it's time to give up the Mr. Chambers thing and call me by my first name. And I was glad he did. But he got a new car and he wanted to show it to me. He brought it by the house. We were in the big house by then, a big old Victorian place. I had left education and went into sales, and so we had this really big house, and things had changed a lot for us. And so Mickey brought his car by and insisted I drive it. He was so proud of this car. I look back at those times as a sort of a moment of success. You kind of cling to those little things. When you're a teacher, you don't always get the feedback. You think, "God, am I doing anything right? Do these kids like me? Are they mean just because I'm an idiot, or are they the idiots?" And you take home the fact that, yeah, I'm probably an idiot, or they'd like me more. But there were always the good kids like him that would settle it for you, that, yeah, you're okay. And so I left teaching in an interesting way. Let me tell you that, and I'll close with this. I was running out of steam. By my 5th year, I had just sort of, what would you say? I had sort of accepted the fact that it wasn't for me. Maybe there was something else out there better. And to be honest with you about this. I really liked teaching. I liked teaching Spanish, but I could just see myself doing something else, and I didn't know what it was. I knew that if I didn't leave, like Erin, who said she finally had to just face her life and say no to all the bad things in her life because there's something around the corner that's better. And like Jerry, who said, I could accept defeat and move on to something better. In this case, I thought, I need something better. I don't want to sound, I didn't at the time want to sound uppity, like, oh, I can do better than this. No, I wanted to just test the waters and see what else was there. And it took a great leap of faith for me to do that because there was no job waiting for me. In fact, in those years, teachers were given a contract every fall, usually sometimes as early as September. I don't know why so early, October maybe. And I had told Kathy the year before, I said, I'm going to go into this next year, but not with blinders. I'm going to face the facts or let my feelings kind of, I don't know, fill in the blank. I'm going to make a decision fairly early in the year. And I put a very high bar there. I wouldn't recommend that to everybody, but I just told her, I said, if my first 2 months are perfect, I'll skip the adjective there. If my first 2 years just go super perfect, I'll stay. But if not, if it's just sort of one of those struggles and things just are always kind of getting to you, then I'm going to say no. When it comes contract time, I'm going to say no. I'm not going to sign it. Well, it was kind of awkward because the kids knew this. The kids kind of knew. They knew more than they should know. I don't know. And so they started asking, are you coming back next year? Are you coming back next year? And I could only say, I'm thinking about it. I could only hedge so far. And I finally had to say, no, I'm not. It was tough because it's kind of like me telling them, I'm moving on. You don't think about that when you leave a normal job. You say goodbye to your friends and you keep in touch. But in this case, I knew it was going to be a really cold break. And I did it anyway. I believed that there would be something for me. My wife could not work. We had 2 small children. It was a big risk. I was kind of a public figure, you might say. A teacher is always a bit of a minor celebrity. The only celebrity in town, really. And I did it. I prayed about it. I said something will happen. Meantime, I'm going to putz around the house. I'll have a paycheck until next September. And I'll tell you what happened later. Thanks. Chat soon.